Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Don't mind me, I'm just preparing the washing. I will end up doing that grey hoodie that everyone seems to love me wearing right now, but I need to get my other shirts done up so that I can basically go to work. So they're going in first, and then shortly after I'll be hauling that bloody thing in, kicking and screaming into the bloody washing machine. But of course you didn't come here to find out what kind of mess that thing's gone into. No, I wanted to talk about what's going to happen on the 1st of February, because obviously this is a very monumental day. Let me turn that fucking one off. That thing's really getting on my nerves as well. There we go, much better. And I also need to do the fabric softener, so that way I don't end up becoming as rough as sandpaper. Well, sorry, the clothes don't become as soft as sandpaper. But while I'm off screen, this protest is very important, suffice to say. Very, very important, I'd like to think. Because it is going to showcase to the world what we think of Keir the traitor Starmer, Sadiq the terrorist sympathiser Khan, Rachel Thieves, David the Archbishop of Racism Lammy, Ricky Cutthroats Jones, and that's just to name a few. And it's going to tell the whole damn establishment what we, the British people, think of their treachery, dishonesty, and downright disrespect of the British people. Now, let's put this in and actually get this in for half an hour. There we go, and start. Start that bitch. Anyway, back on point. Obviously, I know that traditional bricklayer has made a few points as far as people's attitudes are concerned, and I will reiterate some points myself. This protest, no matter whether we think there's going to be a revolution or not, we must respect Richard Inman, who has flown over from Ireland to do this, Paul Thorpe, Mark Toosey, Tommy Robinson. We must respect all their wishes. Because what we don't want is 10 years or more of hard work to go down the drain just like that. We do not want that. Even I am guilty of thinking that we're heading towards a revolution. Mind you, that's no bloody secret at this point. However, that does not mean that I am going to be going down on the 1st of February with the intention of starting hell's bells. No, I am fully intending to go to this rally, to be peaceful, to celebrate, and to basically pay my respects to the political prisoners, especially Peter Lynch, God rest his soul. But we must maintain vigilance, because obviously we know what the left wing are going to do. They're going to try and plant in some infiltrators, whether that's with the eye in the traitors or without it. I leave that to you. But they will do this. Keir the traitor Starmer will do everything he can to make this fail so that he can push his agenda. But he doesn't realise that even if he manages to get people to go up heads with one another, he doesn't realise that if we head towards a civil war, he's probably going to be the first person that people are going to want to have their head on a spike, quite frankly. He has to realise that if he causes a civil war, it's not just his head that's sitting there on the chopping block. It's his entire fucking party. His entire party will have hell to pay. And let me be clear, what happened with Joe Cox is completely reprehensible. You will not catch me saying that Joe Cox deserved that shit. You will never do so. I would sooner swallow a gun and blow my brains out before I say that, quite frankly. But it does not change the fact that we could be facing that on a much larger scale, potentially, if the people decide they've finally had enough and they decide to really go at loggerheads with one another. If they do get their civil war, Keir the traitor Starmer will have to go into hiding pretty much for the rest of his days, unless he wants the British people to, as I said, put his head on a spike. But we must not lose focus. We must make this protest on the 1st of February as peaceful. We must make it peaceful as possible. We must not let them win on that day. I remember from The Mummy, live today, fight tomorrow. That's the way to look at it. We will continue fighting the establishment. Make no bones about it. Make no bones about it at all. We will fight the establishment. But we must fight the establishment in the correct way. And that correct way is going to be by crushing my garlic crusher. Anyway, it's going to be through this on the 1st of February. Like I said, I've said quite a few times that I look at Keir the Traitor Starmer as Adolf Hitler 2.0. I have made that quite apparent because he is almost identical to him. He only needs the moustache and he only needs to add genocide to his list, and there you go, you've got a British version of Adolf Hitler, quite frankly. Of course, I'm not advocating for him to do that shit. I'm just making a point. The literal genocide of Jews is the only thing that separates Keir the Traitor Starmer and Adolf Hitler. But of course, the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. So they would rather focus on trying to smear us. They would rather focus on trying to divide and conquer. That is what they're trying to do right now. What they're doing with this diversity as our greatest strength, well, the complete opposite is true. It's our greatest weakness, and the only thing diversity is doing is dividing the nation. Look how the barbarians from the 5th century come over from their third world shitholes to turn our great nation into a third world shithole. And look how Keir the Traitor Starmer is literally sitting in the driver's seat of his Ferrari and he's got that fucking foot right on the brake and he is going 500 miles an hour. Because that is his ultimate goal, to destroy this country, to erode our cultures and our societies. But we, as Richard Inman has quite rightly put it, this protest is all about uniting people. It's about getting people to be on the same page. What book? Is it the Manifesto? Anyway, it's all about people coming out and being on the same page as one another. It's all about making sure people unite against a common enemy. And that enemy, obviously, is Keir the Traitor Starmer and his socialist, fascistic government. We must continue to do everything we can to respect the wishes of the people who are effectively the leaders, even if they don't say they're the leaders. But I look at these people. I look at Tommy Robinson. I look at Paul Thorpe. I look at Richard Inman. I look at Mark Toosey. I look at Paul Thorpe. I think I've already fucking said that. Hell, I'd almost go as far as saying that I'd look at the traditional bricklayer as a leader figure. He's the sort of person who will get in there and he will be like, right, listen here, you little shit, you're going to behave yourself or else. No, better not. I better not destroy the wall. Anyway, I look at them as potential leader figures, even if they don't see themselves as the person who's sitting up there, up at the front and giving good speeches. But I think traditional... Stroke number one. I think traditional bricklayer makes a valid point, though. We mustn't have people who their only interest is to use the stage to promote themselves. I mean, do so by all means, but don't make it the core focus. Because this is not about you sitting up on stage, making yourself known, just so that you can get a few clicks, a few views, a few likes, and making sure that you rise above where you are now. Of course we'd all love to do that shit, but it mustn't be the core focus. Let me tell you something. When I first started my political activism, making my YouTube videos on my old channel Dabima, I didn't do it because I felt like I'm going to seek fame and glory and I'm going to be the most famous person in the world. No, I didn't. I did it because I saw what was happening to Tommy Robinson, where he was being harassed, I believe. It wasn't in Florence, it was somewhere else. But he was on holiday somewhere, I remember it all too well. And this Daily Mail journalist, or maybe I was right first time. This guy went and harassed Tommy Robinson while he was on his fucking family holiday, with obviously his family. He was getting harassed by James Fielding. But then, when James Fielding was starting to get the same treatment, oh, he ran like a little bitch, let me tell you. He ran like a little bitch with his tail between his legs, alongside the other tiny thing he has between his legs. And he ran and ran. He did not want to be on camera anymore. He got fucking exposed for what he was. A piece of shit, bluntly speaking. And what I did was I filed a complaint with the IPSO, which I believe stands for the International Press Standards Organization. And they dismissed my claim. I made my point, as far as that's concerned, because I felt what was happening to Tommy Robinson was fundamentally wrong. That he was being harassed and his human rights were being violated. But the IPSO dismissed that. They said, because I'm a third party, I have no right to say anything. Like fuck do I? Okay, I may be a third party, but surely some people have got to realise that this is blatant human rights abuse. That's why I decided to jump on the old bandwagon, as it was, stroke number 2, as it was, so that I could actually make a point as far as how Tommy's treatment is being abused, basically. I didn't have to do that. I could have literally sat back in my job where I was actually in credit control, and I was given some credit because I couldn't keep any control. But jokes aside, I was in my little role of credit control and I didn't have to say anything about this. I could have just been like, no, I'm just going to keep doing my job, blah blah blah, let apathy take over and all that bollocks. But no, I didn't. You know why? Because I felt there was something about this. Turns out I was fucking right. Tommy Robinson has been abused. Tommy Robinson has been persecuted, just like 3,200 prisoners right now have been politically imprisoned by our fascist two-tier police state. Tommy Robinson made a presentation, I believe in York, where he basically outlined in his little presentation, aptly named the British police state, how basically he was being targeted, he was being abused, he was being persecuted, and to some lesser extent blackmailed, because he was effectively being threatened, plead guilty, stroke number 3, plead guilty to these charges, and we'll drop the families that of you who we've got small petty little crimes of tax evasion and all that shit on. Now what do you call that? Trying to broker a deal for the safety of, and well-being of his family and tarnish his name. That's blackmail. That is unequivocal blackmail. The way the police as well, they go up to Tommy Robinson when he's enjoying a meal with his family or watching the game. And the police are like, you gotta fucking leave, bro. Nah. If somebody told me I needed to leave when I knew fundamentally I had done nothing wrong, the first thing I'd be doing is what Tommy Robinson did. I'd put the fucking camera on, I'd tell them, show me where you think I've committed a crime, and I will leave. And if they don't show where I've committed a crime or not, or whether I could incite anything, I've got basically 2 words for them. Jog on! Because at the end of the day, they have no right whatsoever to invoke a Section 35 if they have no evidence that you are committing a crime or that you are going to commit a crime. This idea of policing based off of feelings and just because of who they are, not what they've done, is a disrespect to all of us. And we are going to show the police that as long as they stay out of our way, things won't kick off. But I suspect the police will do everything they can to kick this off. They did the same on St. George's Day. How they charged people while on horseback. They provoked the public. They beat the shit out of them. And then they were surprised Pikachu face when all of a sudden the British public fought back. Whether they should have done is a subjective opinion. But the way I look at it is you can't expect to push someone and then not expect to be pushed back. That's the way I see it. And as the guy says in one of his meanie videos, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out, quite frankly. And Keir the traitor Starmer will find out very soon that he has fucked with the wrong people. He does not want a civil war. He may say that effectively that he wants one through his actions, but he really doesn't, because it'll destroy his life. And it will destroy the Nonce Party, the Labour Party. Or yet again, maybe I was right first time. The bottom line is Keir the traitor Starmer will always be in that catch-22, where he's got the prospect of concede and resign. He loses out on what the WEF would have given him. He loses out on being paid as a politician on over 90 grand or whatever, or MPs being paid 90 grand a year plus. Or he continues pissing off the British public, invokes a war, and then he'll be the only Prime Minister in history who has been responsible directly for causing a violent revolution, which I will restate and cannot stress enough, I do not want. But that is the cold, bitter truth of the matter. Keir the traitor Starmer is in the worst possible position. Am I being a little bit of devil's advocate for him? Yeah, I probably am. And I probably shouldn't be. Because the man deserves everything that's fucking coming to him, quite frankly. But even I have to put aside my personal biases to say things as they are. Because the cold, bitter truth is, if he doesn't resign within the month or so, I've said by the 1st of March, there isn't a 31st of February, I don't know what drugs I was doing, but it certainly wasn't the painkillers for my teeth, let me tell you. Anyway, if he doesn't resign by the 1st of March, there's a very strong chance that he may get the civil war he may so seemingly crave. But he will ultimately screw himself with this move. He will ultimately destroy his own career, just like that. And when they come back in history, they won't look at us as saying, oh, they were barbarians, they were far-right thugs, or they were people who were criminals and what have you. They'll look at us and they'll see us as concerned citizens who finally decided they'd had enough of Keir the traitor Starmer and his Labour dictatorship, and they've decided that since they couldn't get the peaceful result that they had hoped for, they've taken matters into their own hands. But as I said, I do not want that. I cannot emphasise that enough. I do not want to see blood on the streets. Though, to be fair, we already see blood on the fucking streets with the so-called religion of peace and the black gangs that are going out of their way with their knives and machetes and all that shit. Don't just take my word as far as the knife crime, as far as black people are concerned. Take a look at the demographics. Take a look at the comparison by ethnicity of the people who are predominantly committing all these knife crimes. If this was white people doing it, I'd say it was white people. If it was yellow people doing it, I'd say it was yellow people doing it. Obviously not trying to be, you know. If it was Chinese people, I'd say the Chinese are stabbing people. My point is, I'm pointing out facts. And that does not make you racist. Nor is it racist to live in the countryside. Nor is it racist to like cats and dogs. Nor is it racist to say things how they are. Nor is it racist to want the best for your country and to protect your country from foreign invaders. Last time I checked, there was 2 world wars where we did that very same principle, and yet the lefties, where were they? Where the fuck were they? They weren't there to complain of those things, were they? When we were having to deal with the Germans trying to invade in the Battle of Britain, were they? That's the thing. They only say things that suit their narrative. Much akin how they keep saying that this is a Nazi salute. It is not a Nazi salute. I could show you what a Nazi salute is, but then I'd probably have my channel shut down, quite frankly. But let's just say it involves one finger being placed just above the lips and the other thing being risen high up into the air, pointing out in a far wide direction. And leave it at that. But I can tell you right now, the left are a bunch of hypocrisy-riddled wankers. They're more than willing to preach, as many can come here will come. Or the other way round, as many people that can come are welcome here, or what have you. Where were they when the Germans were invading? Oh, that's right. They kept their fucking mouths shut. You know why? Because it didn't suit the narrative. It is not racist to want your country back, and those 2 world wars are a showcase of what protecting your borders can potentially mean.